Very good evening to everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Salivanomics. As you can see, I have my gorgeous guest and influencer guest from LA, USA. Welcome, Melissa, and thank you so much for being here and talking on the Slavonomics series. It's a pleasure and honor to have you today here. And I think we will learn a lot from you about saliva. So thank you once again for accepting our invite here today.
Thank you for having me. I mean, any chance to talk about saliva is a good day. It's a good day.
Yeah, so just for my audience, I just want to give a brief introduction, but probably we will learn your journey from you only. So well, Melissa K Turner, she is launch strategist and key opinion influencer. By the way, she's more popular by the name as the Tooth Girl. I mean, that's amazing. And she's the Chief Hygiene Officer at Teledentistry Consulting. She's co-founder National Mobile and Teledentistry Conference, and she's also the co-founder of the Denobi Awards. So, Melissa, please tell me how you manage so many things, so many designations, and how you how your journey as an influencer has been. That would be very, very interesting to know.
Yeah. Well, believe it or not, when I'm going on 20 years as a dental hygienist, but
Wow.
the first 10 were dedicated to being in the clinical op full time. And I was really bored. I loved my job, but I was just bored. And now looking back on that time, I'm like, well, of course I was bored because now I'm having fun. And I think that's probably the easiest way to just describe why I'm kind of all over the place right now. But I love that. I'm having fun. I'm living into my strengths. I'm, trying to set a good example of what being a woman in business and an entrepreneur and a clinician is to my children, right? Trying to find that work-life balance. But right now I'm just having fun. And one of the things that I realized is that when you have fun and when you can combine that with your professional passions, you can get a lot of stuff done. And that's what I'm learning right now. We can get a lot of stuff done when they coincide, when they go side by side like that.
So I think everybody can follow the Tooth Girl on. I mean, if you don't know, then that's your loss. But yeah. But I think there's a lot to learn, and I think Melissa, we will. This is Salivanomics, so definitely both of us are saliva enthusiasts, and we talk about saliva. But definitely somewhere in between, I would also like you to share something about the new thing that you are building up, the Hello system. So that would also be very interesting and very valuable for people. So, how you got interested into saliva. Like I have my own story, but today is your day and you're my guest. So I would really like to know that the most neglected and overlooked biofluid as a dentist, particularly, I mean, from the dental fraternity. Saliva is not our friend. We see it as a foe all the time. So how you realized the importance of saliva and, you became enthusiastic about this?
Mm-hmm. Well, it probably started, over COVID, with all of the focus being then on biofilm, the oral microbiome. And I was even reading a book the other day by my favorite author. His name's Malcolm Gladwell, and he had his newest book. He has a theory as to why some people are COVID super spreaders and others aren't. And his theory, and he backed it up by some research and things like that, but I don't know what that was, but he backed it up. But he said that his theory as to why some people were COVID super spreaders was because they had a lack of saliva. And so then per, milliliter of saliva, per drop of saliva, the COVID virus was more pronounced, more, quantifiable, like a higher count of the COVID virus in that one drop versus someone with saliva that is a regular flow within normal limits. And so I think looking back, reflecting on the last 7 years of my journey and how I'm super obsessed with saliva right now, I think that's probably when it started, because I got into biofilm, the oral microbiome, and I started studying that. And then what happened was one of my family members, my mom-in-law, she all of a sudden came to me one day and she said, my mouth is hurting, my tongue is hurting, it's burning, the tip of it hurts. And the more she started talking, the more I realized, well, it's obvious she has a decreased salivary function and she has no idea, right? And so I started talking to her about this and realizing, she's an educated woman, she's middle class, she's healthy, and she has no idea that lack of saliva is what's causing these symptoms. Now, we don't know what's causing the lack of saliva necessarily in her case, but her quality of life diminished severely, really quickly, like sleeping. She's still a healthy, normal person, but she has all of this pain now. And still to this day, we haven't found a good solution, which is the sad part, which is part of the frustration of and the passion that I have is, there's, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but there isn't necessarily a good solution yet because many reasons: a lack of evidence, lack of protocol in the dental practice. And you said it best. You said, we think saliva is a bad thing. When I am restoring a filling or in trying to put a sealant on a tooth, I want a dry field. And we're just so used to sucking out the saliva, when really that if I could just take it out and put it back in, I would, because that is so precious to the patient, especially for someone that has, severe decrease of salivary flow, let alone moderate or mild, right? So all of that kind of came together, and I'm like, you know what? No one is talking about this in the United States. Like, very few people are. What I want to do is start shouting it from the rooftops and make it into a movement. And so over the last 2 years, that's been what I've been building to.
Amazing. I think actually, I completely agree with you in terms of awareness. Forget about normal layman people. I think from the fraternity itself, we are not much aware, and I think our friend Paul has been in this industry for 30 years now. And so saliva is not a new thing. Saliva research or saliva diagnostics is not a new thing. But I think influencers like you, when they take up responsibilities, that makes a lot of sense, because actually then the real science, the real word spreads out, and it's always for the betterment of the people that we all are trying in our own small or big way. So I think amazing your personal story, how it curated your mind and you got into the field of saliva. That's amazing, and thank you for sharing that. So well, I have a curious mind. So since since you are into the space of information sharing, I love the content that you make all the time. But if I ask you that, if you have to explain what is saliva diagnostics to a 10-year-old child, so please teach us that trick, how to do that.
Well, my daughters are 11 and 9, so that's a perfect question. 10 is right in the middle. What I would say to them, what I would imagine saying to them is saliva is the ocean, right? So my kids right now, they love the ocean. They understand you have the coral reefs. They understand you have schools of fish and all these different environments within the water, right? And so that's what I would say to a 10-year-old is, hey, saliva is an ocean in your mouth, and within the saliva there's all these habitats, all these different areas, and we need to make sure that they are thriving, right? But then my kids would start talking about, oh, I have bugs in my mouth. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, maybe. But I think that's like, to bring it down to basics, I think that's even what I would tell a group of dentists or hygienists is, hey, let's not forget that the communities of organisms that live in our mouth, they're not all bad, right? Like, we need those. And I think when I take a step back and I look at where the patient mindset is and where the consumer landscape is, I see a trend that's helping this along, because they're really into the microbiome, or their biome, their own body's biome, right? They're really starting to understand that we need probiotics and prebiotics for gut health. Like, that has preceded oral health microorganisms in the consumer world, right? So now I think it's just an easy step to say, hey, patient, you know your gut has this stuff, you need to maintain it. Same thing in your mouth, because they are connected, right? So
Absolutely.
it's so I think this is getting on an anecdotal little footnote here, but it's so easy for humans to think that we are the center of the universe. And what I've come to understand, the older I get, what I've come to understand is that we think we're the center of the universe, right? When really, I mean, it could be the mushrooms, the fungi, the mycelium in the ground. It could be the bacteria in our mouth and the biofilm. Like, who's to say that we are the center? We're the center of our universe, but of the universe, we don't know. We just don't know what we don't know, right?
Right. Absolutely right. Because I think it's nothing about us. We are actually controlled by the entire microbial world. Like, there are a lot of evidence now out because of advancements in science. Lot of evidence is there, like how our even the thought processes are also controlled by the gut microbiome, probably. And just to add on what you said, I mean that's the thing. Like, when people are becoming aware, as you said, one thing we are also forgetting, that before even getting inside the gut, this is the first entry point. I always love to say that you have to pass the gate of the palace before getting.
I love that.
So that's always I keep thinking that please consider the gate of the palace, because if that's dirty, however decorated your dining hall would be in the palace, you're not going to get inside. So
I'm gonna steal that. I love it.
please. Yeah. So, and I'll steal the ocean and coral concept. That's amazing. Definitely, I will write somewhere and of course, give you the credit, but I'm going to steal it. So amazing. So yeah, I think when we start talking about saliva, time just flies, and I mean, all the questions come to my head, and I'm not going to leave you today very easily. Got hold of you, kind of, it's very difficult to get you, but I think it's a privilege again. So, Melissa, like, I'll just a little bit ask a bit of little technical question. Like, we know, and people who don't know, for them also this would be a good information, that saliva collection is not just spitting into a tube or something. So, depending on the biomarkers, we use different kind of saliva collection tools. So, as an enthusiast yourself, there are a lot of new generation saliva tools that we are seeing being innovated and being coming out in the market. So what new generation saliva tools excites you most?
Mhm. I mean, right now there's so much happening. And as I say this, I'm thinking to myself, in the next 36 months, there's even going to be so much more happening that we can't even think of, just because of the generative AI and the technology that's out there right now. But a little backstory to this is, once I started becoming really interested in the oral microbiome and saliva and xerostomia, my tendency is to, when I get into something, I research every corner of it as comprehensively as I can so that I get the good overview, and then I narrow down to what I want to focus on, right? So with salivary tools and products right now, what I've done over the last 2 years is I've taken as many of the salivary tests and plaque tests and oral tests and done it on myself to learn. So I have over here, I have a stack of boxes of these used salivary tests that I keep just to remember them. So now I have countless pages of information about my own mouth, from the last 2 years in my own body. And I've just kind of absorbed it. And now I'm able to kind of answer this question because of that. And I think the biggest thing that excites me right now is, salivary testing, oral testing is not new. Like you said, it's been Paul's been doing it for decades. But what is new is the delivery model. So I think there's kind of two things happening right now. The first is we can take whatever test it is, we can take it in the moment, and we can get the answer, the result in the moment within, 5 minutes or 20 minutes, right? Something like that. That is priceless, because when I'm in the dental office, when you're in the dental office, if we can talk to the patient about the problem, if they can accept that this test needs to be completed, and if we can have some kind of a result with objective next steps, if we can do that all within one appointment, that is value beyond belief right there. That's what we haven't been able to do in the past. And so one of my favorite tests right now that I'm working on myself, and I'm actually taking this test every day for about a month to see if I can track the pattern. But this test that I'm doing looks for if there's any active MMP8 byproduct in the saliva. And so then that will signify that there could be some inflammation going on somewhere. And so that's right now, I'm like, okay, this is a great tool. It looks for one, biomarker. But what we can do with this test, and this is why I'm taking it for 30 days in a row, is it gives a number, and the lower the number, the healthier, you are. And so absolutely. I want to be able to see if I can begin to track some patterns. Like if I'm more stressed out on one day, will the number be higher? If I don't floss that day, will that number, will that result be higher? And these are the kind of experiments I do on myself to try to figure out then what is the best value we can give the patient. Because specifically for this kind of a test, if the score changes, then we could almost gamify it for the patient. We could say, hey, patient, we're going to take this test every time you come in, even if you're coming in for the dentist side of things. It's going to give you a score. And if you can lower that score, then you're winning the game, right? Then you're, and so it'll help them take more control of their oral health, which most people think they can't, right? So that's what I think that's the long and short answer to what I'm really excited about, is being able to do a test in the moment and do it at every appointment so that we can gamify it, so that we can track, instead of guessing at the patient's disease, we can track the disease any extent, right? And so then the patient can get more involved. We can personalize the care. And that's a lot of what I do outside of Saliva, is helping the industry implement technology, whether it's virtual care or different AI tools or anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we're so used to, as healthcare providers, we're so used to just guessing at the disease. Well, I think that's a red spot, so it must be inflamed. It looks a little puffy today, right? But that's so subjective. And the more we can, the more data we have, the more we can track things, and including if our therapy is successful.
Absolutely. It makes everybody's life so easier. And when we talk with evidence as healthcare providers, or the services that our hygienist friends do, so it becomes very easy to convince people, because we are talking sense. It's not like giving them some dreamy ideas, and because once you tell certain jargons in front of patients, you never know which word they're taking and where their anxiety is shooting up. Because that's something, I think it need not be a border, geographic border, but I think every patient, when they come to a dental office, first emotion they bring is fear and anxiety.
Yep. No matter how friendly you are, there's still a fear.
That's there. But yeah, I mean, not blaming anybody, but that's kind of a normal psychological thing. But as you said rightly, I completely agree with you that if we really have to in fact, not preventive methodologies particularly, there also, when we try to convince patients, some people are so oblivious, and they are into their world. They, just a normal scaling, or our the tooth cleaning, what we say in the normal terminologies. So people think that, oh, this dentist is telling me something, just to make money. That's a kind of mindset, but that's not. So when we have this kind of salivary test, or where we can show them something, so it's also becomes easier for us to convince the patients for their good. Of course, money is there, but it's not something hefty that we are going to charge anybody. And it's actually, end of the day, their quality of life is, improving. That is what we all are trying to do in our all best possible ways. So I think the conversation is going kind of quite interesting, I feel so. So Melissa, we were just discussing, and as you said, you are doing one test which measures the biomarker MMP8. So just with context, something was running in my mind, because when we talk about biomarkers, there are a lot of things in saliva which is present, and which is happening. But as a person who you were doing for 2 years, doing several tests and watching them, that's really, really hats off to you. I mean, that's amazing work that you are doing. So in that context, have you seen any pattern or kind of biomarkers you think would be more popular that way compared to others? Is there any pattern that you have seen in this period of time?
Yeah, and I'll tell you that one of my pain points right now with all of this is I have all this information, all this result about my own mouth, and I don't know what to do with it. I have no idea what to do with it, right? It's part of it is overwhelming because I have so much, but even one test that gives multiple results is overwhelming as a provider, but also as a patient, right?
Right.
I think looking back over the things that I've experienced, number one, if there's any kind of test that can give more direction when it comes to oral cancer, that is number one. That is a must do in the dental practice. You must do that. So many times, I've heard dentists and myself say to a patient, well, we'll just wait a couple weeks. And if it's still there, if that lesion is still there, then maybe we'll biopsy or think about doing something about it, right? But if we could take a test and have more information about that lesion,
Right.
so number one, anything related to oral cancer is a must. You must get it right away. You must implement it every day, every week, hands down. The other thing, I do really like inflammation right now. Anything, the active MMP8, anything that can track inflammation, I think is a huge asset to both the provider and the patient, because we know, if there's inflammation in the mouth, it's in the rest of the body too. We know it's not just an isolated incident, right?
No.
But so often in our theories of clinical oral disease, we have gingivitis, but really, what's the difference between gingivitis and periodontitis? Really, there's not a lot of information available to diagnose, let alone even about it, really, like in a practical clinical sense. And so if we, part of me is like, well, if we remove the terminologies of gingivitis, periodontal diseases, or anything else in between, and just focus on inflammation, we might get more done in our day and say, hey, you have an inflammation. We have to try to control it. We have to get it down. We have to try to, maintain it or bring it to baseline if possible. We could get a lot more done versus focusing. I mean, we still have to diagnose, but focusing on, well, is it this or is it this, right? And then the third thing I think that is really effective from a patient standpoint is anything related to oral malodor and bad breath. That's an easy selling point. You say, okay, this test, if it's a positive test, or if it reads this, if the results say this, then probably you're going to deal with bad breath, right? And the patient is on board immediately. So as an education tool, as a sales tool, anything that has to do with bad breath, or even any test that you can say, hey, you're going to have gingivitis, which probably means you're going to have bad breath. Like, even if it's not a direct tie, that is a good angle to take, because every patient is concerned about their breath.
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree with what you said in terms of, tagging the diseases, because for us as clinicians or hygienists, when we come from the perspective of bringing the knowledge in with the science, but for a layman, for our patients, anyway, they are scared, and we scare them away more by telling so many things, and then we give a list of treatments that sounds more scary, and they see even the scaler, they're all kind of, oh my god, I'm not going to do this, I don't need this. So I think the perspective, for example, what you do through your channels, breaking it down in a very simple way, and tell people that nothing to get scared, and what could be the benefits. And right away, if we have this kind of tools coming in, this tests coming in, which gives us evidence, I think it's a very promising time that we are living in terms of AI and all the stuff. I think that gives us a lot of power, as being from the field of science and healthcare. So I think we must utilize them. So that's my perspective there. Yeah.
We might be biased, though, just a little bit.
Might be, but I think at the end of the day, we all want that it's good for the people. I mean, we all want that at the end of the day. So I think even being a bias, that's okay. Okay, so when I talk to people, even I'm not talking of the layman, but scientists, senior practitioners, I have had a lot of experiences like this. That when I talk that, okay, saliva, first of all, what I mean, what even this woman is talking about? That is one perception I have got all the time when I started it, as a thing, doing the International Saliva Summit with Paul's Health in India. So from there I have several experiences where I have also seen people have belief and myths around saliva. So
Mhm.
uh, as a key person, as an influencer, what is that one myth about saliva you would like the public to understand and stop believing immediately?
Mhm.
So yeah.
I, the easy answer is to that is it goes back to the story of my mother-in-law. You
Yeah.
know, she had no idea that
Mm,
the symptoms she was dealing with had anything to do with lack of saliva. She had no idea.
right.
And you know, it was funny because for the last 2 years I just finished up clear aligner therapy. And
Okay.
in the beginning, I was like, I'd put the trays in and I
Mm,
was having a hard time talking. And I was like, something isn't right in my mouth.
mm,
And then
mm.
I realized that I didn't have any saliva. Like, you know, so it's even in me who is obsessed with saliva. It's hard to
Yeah.
identify.
Yeah.
For some reason, when I was putting the liners in, looking back, it would make my mouth really dry, but then also make me create more saliva. So it was this weird like thing that was happening. I don't know if it was the plastic or the material. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but but even someone who is obsessed with the mouth, with teeth, with
Mm,
saliva,
mm,
when I was going through dry mouth periods, I didn't even recognize it. And so I think that's the shift I would like to see happen is
mm,
to kind of show the public, show consumers, show our communities and our families that hey, like what you're dealing with every day actually is because you don't have enough saliva. So let's dive into it, you know. And then for me, if I can help one person improve their quality of life, then my day is done. You know, like I'm happy. Like
absolutely.
it's we only live once, right? And when we don't have a lot of saliva, I mean, our quality of life can just go down just like that. And so as I'm looking at all the prescription
Mm,
drugs and even the caffeine and alcohol intake and vaping and now weight loss drugs and all these things
mm.
that clearly mess with the amount of liquid our body makes in our mouth. Um, I think that's the biggest misconception. I just want to have this big PR awareness campaign that says, hey, like you need to make sure if your tongue is feeling weird, it's probably lack of saliva. If you know all of these
Right.
things, you know that's what I would change.
Amazing. I think you have just like, bang on pointed out the thing, because these are the very common things. I think it's not about being in healthcare or not being in healthcare. As a human, we all face these things. It's just that we should be aware. Like I also am a very big proponent of saliva. And I completely agree with what you say. I second your thoughts, because without, even when we speak more, like when we do public speaking, and after some time, we just feel that dryness. So
Yes.
we just, I mean, body gives us all the time some signals if something is going wrong, or it could lead us to little bit of tiredness or stress. So I think saliva has those small clues. We don't need to always go deep down into the molecular biology. This is something like, very common thing that is happening all the time.
Yeah.
So thank you for creating that awareness, and I think it is definitely going to help people understand the importance of saliva and why should we look into it in a more friendly way.
Yeah.
So uh, so is there any story that, or any cases that you have encountered in your journey when you become an enthusiast for saliva, where it could really have been uh, changing somebody's life,
Mhm.
some changes or something? Have you encountered any specific specific area like that? Like you told one about your mom-in-law, that I understand. Is there
Mhm.
anything else that you have come across?
I think that it it's not one specific story, but it's the impact that I know that I've seen dental
Mm.
professionals have on cancer patients. That's the best example. And I've worked with some cancer patients, and it's the most extreme example of they have nothing wet in their mouth at all. And so to even be able to give them a little bit of something, a little bit of relief,
Mm.
or a
Mm.
little bit of stimulation, or a little bit of I don't know, objective answer to what they're feeling in their mouth. And in my patients that I've helped walk through cancer treatment, that's the first thing I do is I say, okay, you might not think you have dry mouth, but you do, and you will, and it's gonna run your life. So let's get a xerostomia protocol in place. Let's get an oral, a salivary test in place that we can track. And honestly, a lot of times it's been, these patients didn't even have enough saliva to take a test with, right? And so we would have to work around that and see if there's any tests that I could use a liquid and spit versus having to
Right.
actually collect a certain amount of saliva.
Mm.
So I think for me, the biggest impact is helping these cancer patients and cancer survivors too understand that we need to be their best friend, every week. How you doing? Like, do you feel like you have enough saliva? Like, what, here's a new product, here's a new relief spray or something that I can send to you just to help. I think for me, that's one of the biggest
Absolutely.
concerns I have.
That's amazing. And I think it's very, very true, because the quality of life, due to several, because of the big C disease, plus even the survivors, I mean, it's really goes down. And when at least restoring the salivary flow, at least prevents a lot of other things, a lot of other problems. I mean, it's kind of connected, right? So I think that's a I think it should be kind of a mission for everybody to, to see into this space. I mean, I think it's time to be little more vigilant. It, I mean, we can't just keep quiet and, sit and do the same old 20 years back what we have been doing. I mean, it's time.
I mean,
It's
if we
time.
were talking about blood and there was a lack of blood in the body, I mean, everyone would be all crazy about
Oh,
that, right? They'd be
right.
passionate about that in a heartbeat.
Absolutely. 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 Well, so blood versus saliva. I mean, we just need to be, little vocal. Like I always, from my side, even I have learned this from Paul and other researchers I have met through him, who works in the world of saliva. That we never say that we are against blood. It's just that we reinforce the entire system of diagnostics and healthcare. But to you, I have a kind of critical question. This is my habit to
I
ask
love it.
questions. So what do you think is the biggest thing or biggest barrier uh, that is stopping saliva diagnostics to be as common as blood tests?
I'll speak for the dental industry in the United States, right? I
Sure.
think mindset. I think clinician mindset is the big.
Oh.
I mean, I honestly, I'm going to call it like it is. We in the United States, we are, and I'll speak on behalf of dentists and hygienists. A lot of us, when we're in the chair full time, we're exhausted. We're just trying to survive, right? We're just trying to make it. And I think that in itself
Mm.
prevents a lot of innovation from happening in the dental office, and it keeps us in a survival mindset versus in a, hey, what else can we do, where can we improve, and I see some of that changing in the last 5 years maybe in
Right.
the industry, but it comes down to mindset. We're so tired, whether you're the dentist or the hygienist, we're so tired, or the assistant, we're so tired that we can't handle anything new. We can't go out and search for something new to implement in our protocol, in our day-to-day. We can't. And then even if we did that, we can't, come up with the systems to fully implement it among the team and to get everyone on board. And so I think if we can change in the US, if we can make the practice of dentistry easier on the clinician, I think we'll be able to see a lot of growth. And that's my hope with all these revolutionary new clinical products and the AI and everything. It's my hope that as clinicians, we can get back to not just being factory workers and same old, but we can begin to think like humans do and get creative and think innovation and out of the box, and then have the energy to actually implement it. So mindset. Yeah.
I just felt that you speak my mind.
Welcome.
So no, it's really very important, and I think more we speak, it is less. But I think as a community of people, of saliva enthusiasts, at least, like as you said just few minutes ago, that if I can change one life with this as a human, that is a success. So I think the kind of summits that are happening, the congregations that are happening in different parts of the world, including we are doing it in India, Brazil, of course North America. Can't forget the person who is behind all these motivation. I think Italy, a lot of new countries are also showing interest nowadays. So I think this kind of congregations actually helps to bridge industry and academia, as well as the kind of ecosystem. I think that's very important, that we speak and bring people together under one roof. And of course influencers like you, please teach me, I also want to become an influencer like you.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Eugene, we'll make it happen. What not to do. How about that?
Yeah, okay. I'm anything to learn from you, I'm open to that. Okay, that's the fun part. But yeah, I think that's very important. We actually do it in our own, as I said, in our own capabilities. Everybody can do it in their own way, whether it is you are talking to a big group of people or one person or your patient. I mean, where is very important, both the sides. So I mean, what you said is absolutely correct. But I think we are at the concluding part of our conversation, Melissa. But before I'll ask you the last question, would you like to share something about your um hello circle? I mean, is it like, if it is if you are comfortable, and if it is okay to share? Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you for asking. I appreciated that. So I think it was 2 weeks ago, I launched something called the Halo system. And
Hmm.
so this is what happened when I became a hygienist, when I was bored in the clinical up.
Hmm.
I said, what more can I do to help dentistry become better, not just for the patient, but for the provider and the practitioner, right? And so my natural talent is in marketing and influence and building brands. And
Right.
so as I was leaving the clinical op, I began to work with startups and mature companies, these companies in dentistry who are supplying us with the tools we need and the innovation we need to work smarter and not harder. And what I realized was in American dentistry, all of a sudden, dentists and hygienists and dental practice owners, all of a sudden, over the course of maybe 2 or 3 years, everyone started marketing at them. And so
Okay.
so these clinicians were like, holy cow, there's so many products on the market. Which one is the right one to use? And what happened, it just became noisy. And so I would walk alongside these companies, these startups and manufacturers and tech companies, and say, okay, here's how you become a valued company in the industry where the clinician will actually hear you and respect you. And now with AI, the tools that we have with AI, it's just getting noisier out there. And so what I realized was, and I realized this a while ago, but I realized as I worked with these companies, and it even applies with people that I'm coaching as well, who want to go to the next level in their career. What I realized is that we can work smarter, not harder, when we're trying to get our message out. And it's easy, intentional things that we can do that makes us more respected and builds a movement.
Absolutely.
Yeah, instead of just yelling marketing and phrases and brands and graphics and slogans. And so I created this Halo system a while ago, and it stands for Human and AI Leadership Optimization. Created it a while ago in the background, and that's a method I've been using when I consult with companies and also with individuals. But I decided this year that I wanted to take it public because I decided it was important enough that even if a company or somebody isn't working with me, they need to understand that things have changed. They need to understand that you can't just throw out a whole bunch of emails and social media campaigns and hire 100 influencers to sell your product, because that doesn't work anymore. Nobody's going to hear it, right? And so it's this method finds kind of an old school approach where I say, okay, now since everyone's going virtual, you need to get back in person. You need to be at the summits and the conferences. You need to go in person and create that presence as a community, as leadership in the community, and plus combine it with, a good an effective social media strategy and an effective strategy in the dental journals and on podcasts. It's this whole ecosystem that you can create in person and online. And that's the way to build a movement, to build a category in an industry. And that's the only way people can be heard and companies can be heard right now. So my goal is for these revolutionary dental products that are going to help so many dental practices and help hygienists and help dentists have an easier life. My goal is to help these companies who provide these products create better messaging so that the clinicians in the chair can actually hear it and understand this is what I need to use right now. And then that way it creates better communities, right? Because if the provider can do more, right, then the communities are healthier. So it's kind of this whole roundabout way of saying, hey, we can do better.
That's amazing. Actually, it is helping, of course, the innovative companies who are coming up, also the traditional companies who have been in the space. I mean, this is very important. And I think here we both have a lot of compatibility. I am little away from typical dental products, but I'm more into the research and development part. But then there also, you need to bring that story out. So I think when your entire course and coaching program will be launched, so your first student is here from India.
Let's do it.
Definitely we will do it. Well, Melissa, the last question from my side. So, well, if you have to describe saliva in one word, or I would say not saliva, but the future of saliva, what would be that and why?
I'm gonna say the word gold. Saliva is gold.
Wow.
And I think that works for both the future and for saliva itself. I believe
Mm.
saliva will be the currency that we understand the mouth. It's not just about cavities. It's not just about the caries disease process. It's not just about function.
Mm.
It's about the currency. It's about what is flowing in and out and preventing it earlier and then eventually preventing it altogether. So I'm going to say saliva is gold, and it's about time that we start understanding that.
Amazing. So saliva is gold. That's taken. That's taken. Yeah. So thank you, Melissa, for your time in spite of your extremely busy schedule. And it's an honor and pleasure to have you again. And of course, as a proponent of saliva, trying to bring awareness in India. For the last, I started in 2019, so I have been trying to create awareness. So this time we met, well, virtually. So if you could make it to the International Saliva Summit, which I am conducting in 2026 again in Bangalore, in person and hybrid format. But if you could come to India, I would love to host you. So
India is on
think
my list
about
of
it.
places to go, so I would love to.
Oh wow! So think about it. You amazing, amazing. So thank you so much once again. It was wonderful talking to you, and I think we have a lot of things to discuss again. And I think we will have to come on more conversations like this. And all the best for your Hello system to empower both the people, the company, and the providers. I think that's wonderful, and I look forward to definitely learn more from you about this system. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.